joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponauer and Theo Ash. And welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot, they're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the Monday night games. If you tuned into our Little Caesars Monday Night Football live stream, we're mostly looking at the Packers-Giants game, but we thought we really only watched the second half of that on the live stream, so we thought we'd talk about that as well as the Titans-Dolphins game. Both games resulted in upsets, so we wanted to dive into that a little bit. We'll also talk about our Under Armour NBA Game Changer of the Week, as well as there's been some rumors surrounding Belichick's future in New England, so we, of course, have to at least touch on the fact that it's being talked about. And then we'll finish off with our Stay Hot locks. But before we get into everything today, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing terrible. That Packers loss hurt.
Yeah.
And now
I feel you.
We don't have to talk about it. We can skip over.
Yeah,
we kind of do need to talk about it.
It's just tough because you see all the Tommy DeVito content online and like his whole family celebrating and kissing each other on the cheek.
Shut up.
And it's like they're doing that on your team. It's like I'd be hyped up for DeVito if it wasn't against the Packers. Yeah. But it's like, oh my God, we've got this whole media circus because he beat the Packers. And so it just hurts a little extra when you should have won that game.
Yeah, I understand your pain.
As do
I've first off, the COVID stuff still bothering me, man. Still wake up every morning. Yeah, dude. I'm fine. Like I'm not like sick anymore, but I just don't feel good. You know, maybe that's me just being a baby in general. But what's really bothering me is the whole.
When my mom had it, she had some like lasting effects for a while.
I had shortness of breath, it felt like, for a while after getting it, but I had just moved to Flagstaff when I got it. And so I'm not sure if that was from COVID or if that was from living at like over 7,000 feet.
Maybe a mix.
Or probably a mix. Probably a mix.
Yeah.
It could have also been from sitting on my ass watching my computer all day, every day.
Hey, it's the damn computer doing that to you, buddy. Don't be fooled.
These damn phones.
Get off the phone. It's no. What's really bothering me though is the Cam Newton discussion, the discourse that we're having today on Twitter.com. Yes, have you not seen Cam on his podcast went and called a bunch of quarterbacks game managers? Not to be completely honest, he was not correct about all of them. He did call Dak a game manager. But I've seen some wild Cam Newton takes today, and the NFL figured him out after 7 years, and that's what ended his career and all that.
It only took them 7 years.
They figured him out by blowing him up and it not getting called.
RPG at his knees.
Yeah, it's like in Batman versus Superman when they had to launch a nuke into space to like kill the evil monster. That's like what they had to do.
That is a lot what Cam Newton's career was like. That's true.
Batman versus Superman.
It's a lot like Batman versus Superman. So that's been bothering me, and then
he called Purdy and Tua and Dak
and Goff
game managers. I'm willing to hazard a guess that Cam isn't grinding film, nor should he be as a retired player.
Yeah.
I don't think Dak belongs with those other three.
I would agree, but he's a legend, and everything that he says goes, as far as I'm concerned.
Dak it's official.
So,
I mean, I don't care if I'm wrong.
CJ Stroud is the MVP.
Truer words never spoken.
Matt, I did realize that on Monday's episode, we didn't talk about Ivan Pace at all.
He had a great game.
He did.
He shouldn't have gone undrafted. somebody could have thrown a seventh at him. He's pretty limited in some ways, but he's been doing his thing and balling out. And he had a fantastic game. And he's not bad in coverage. He's just small, you know? Like, he's not stupid. He's not lost. He's just, there's limitations. But that interception was great. He's fantastic at covering screens. He's got good range. Nasty. You know, it's like there's a lot to like about his game. He's sort of like a piece at linebacker. I don't know what his snap count was from that game. I know they've been having him on and off a lot, depending on, you know, like down and distance and situation and whatever. But I've just been happy to see him be on a team and get real snaps as undrafted free agent. That's not easy to do. I mean, almost nobody does that. So it's been cool to see one of my guys go and do that.
I don't know what his snap count was, but I assume it had to have been pretty substantial.
He did have 13 tackles. I didn't watch the entirety of that game. I only saw bits and pieces. So maybe we should have brought
13 tackles,
it up,
a sack, a pass deflection, and an interception.
Yeah.
You're not doing that on like limited snaps. And if you are, you need to get more snaps.
D-Roy him now.
If it weren't for Jalen Carter and Will Anderson,
Theo accidentally shaking his head. But do we want to talk about NBA or NFL first today?
Let's talk about the Monday night games. Let's get Packers versus Giants out of the way.
So what did you think about your team losing?
Pretty tough one to drop. Just a horrible loss when you're sitting there on the bubble and the Rams lose, and you've got this golden opportunity against a weak schedule to go in and lose one to Tommy DeVito. And going through the rewatch, it was just one of the all-time bad performances I've seen from the group on both sides of the ball. I don't think that the Giants offense necessarily looked like it had a whole bunch of pieces that were just dominating their one-on-ones. Wandale certainly was. But silly mistakes, I feel like, defined the day more than anything that the Giants offense did. No offense to Giants fans. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I don't view Tommy DeVito as like some backup who should be the starter going forward forever and ever. I think that he's, you know, an undrafted free agent and not a great situation. So it makes sense that he's not, you know, tearing anybody apart. But like he was kind of hesitant to let it go down the field, and it was a lot of screens and it was a lot of him scrambling. But Rashawn Gary lost contain like 100 times in this game.
DeVito ran all over him.
He ran absolutely everywhere. And Keyshawn Nixon played terrible. He was trying to get a pick, or I don't know what he was trying to do. He was freelancing out there and not reading out route concepts. Like it seemed to take him completely by surprise whenever there was a break. He was biting down on routes that he wasn't supposed to bite down on, hoping DeVito would throw that, then he'd throw it somewhere else. Just in zones all day, like people not where they're supposed to be. And yeah, it was a pretty disgusting performance overall. And since I've been a Packer fan, I have not witnessed a truly complete defense or really even a good one outside of maybe, was it 2019 or 2020? Devondre Campbell had a all-pro
that
type
must have
of
been
year.
2020. I don't think that was 2019 because we were doing our thing when that happened. Maybe even 2021.
Yeah, there was one year where it was okay, but man, outside of that, it just feels like that team has never been able to put forward a defense that lives up to its talent level.
I was about to say, because it's not for a lack of talent.
It's never been a defense that is unaddressed. They have tons of first-round picks spent on that side of the ball famously, you know, all the time. They never go with skill position players in that first round. I mean, they don't even take a lot of first-round offensive linemen. It's always the defense, always. And they just never mentally get there. Like, I've never had a defense that plays smart. And this year seems to be no different. And I'm honestly, like, we'll see if in the middle of the playoff run they fire Joe Barry. But I thought that this was a performance where to some extent, schematically, like a lot of the things that people complain about with him, what weren't happening. Like there were a lot of bare fronts and 3 interior defensive linemen and numbers against the run. And they did a decent job against Saquon overall. But, just the coordination of it, like get these guys not making silly mistakes and being where they're supposed to be in zone coverage and playing their technique in man, it just is not going down. So it's like, even when Barry tweaks the scheme a little bit or puts more guys in the box, there's still plenty of problems with the coverage that prevents you from, taking numbers away from anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree. And I think offensively, you're still dealing with a very inconsistent Jordan Love, who is prone to just misfire on things kind of frequently. And I think with A.J. Dillon, they were giving him a lot of carries. And I don't know if he's got like the big play ability that makes you worry when, like, you almost, if you're the opposing team, you like, an A.J. Dillon run. That's a good thing, right? I mean, I don't think he had any sort of long run. They gave him about 15 carries or whatever. I mean, they really worked him, and it's just like not a lot of going there. And he gets, he gets north and he'll try to attack, but it feels sometimes a little blind. So I just think they lack strong receivers as well. Jordan Love's inconsistent, and their run game is
I think
struggling.
LaFleur's offense really borders on too cute and genius all the time. Like that world blurs a lot of the time. And, with Dillon being the power guy, they don't have that speed element at running back. And I think they're trying to get that through extra end arounds to Jaden Reed or Christian Watson. And they spammed them in the Giants game, and it resulted in a touchdown, but it also resulted in a lot of big losses. And they try to flea flicker, and they're known to try, triple option, and they draw up all these crazy things that take a long time in the backfield. I've seen them throw it, to Jordan Love after a run, and then he throws it all the way across the field, and then there's a platoon of blockers over there. There's Dontavion Wicks has a couple passing attempts this year. It's just an offense with, in my opinion, so many moving parts that it can be tough to be on the same page. And like, especially, pre-snap wise in an offense like this, there's motion. Guys confuse themselves. You're coming out of the huddle with less time to get everybody set because of that motion, right? That takes time that could be spent communicating. So it's an offense that's easy to mess up, and there have been plenty of performances from the offense this year where they just look like they don't know how to execute
it definitely, it's like LaFleur's good, but an offense like that really requires like high level skill position guys, high level quarterback play, and pretty much every offense does, but nothing is dumbed down for what is a less talented offensive group. And that leads to a lot of mistakes. People have the same complaints about Ryan Day, for example. It's kind of a similar thing that reminds me of that, where everything is just a little bit more difficult. There's a lot on the plate of Love. There's a lot on the plate of the other skill possessions. And I think we'd probably be having a conversation about how the pieces here offensively are not that great regardless. But LaFleur is not making things easier for them, for sure.
Yeah.
And part of it is this is sort of like a building year for them. They lost Rodgers last year. It's okay. But being in the playoff race with a prime schedule going forward to make it, and they still have the 7th seed, if I'm not mistaken.
They do.
Like, I mean, the playoffs should be the standard for them. Granted, I don't know what they would do if they got there. This is very much we made the playoffs.
Well, hopefully, if we play the Lions, and then we play maybe,
it's going to be Eagles or Cowboys or something.
Both of those teams aren't invincible, though.
They're not invincible, but the Packers can't beat anybody playing like they did last week.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't beat Tommy DeVito's Giants playing like they did last week. It was something we saw from Mike McDaniel's Dolphins last year a bit. There was a stretch last year where they couldn't get the play call in on time. There was a bunch of pre-snap ugliness, and I really do think like the moving parts before the snap makes it very difficult and makes you prone to just completely ugly games that never even get off the ground. We can say what we want about Purdy and his post-snap skill set, but pre-snap he's gotten all those things down. Like that doesn't happen in San Francisco, which is why they're the best team in the league. But with some of these other Shanahan disciples, I think that we love the playbook. I love the playbook, but it's hard to implement it sometimes. And I thought this was one where that reared its ugly head.
I really think losing the contain all the time was the other real big thing, because DeVito is not like some crazy threat on the ground. Like, he is not having a bunch of games like this. And it's so frustrating for them because it's such a bailout. Like, you want DeVito to put it in the air. You want him to have to make tough throws. And you didn't make him do that when he always has the option of like, boom, I can just get out of there and run for like 60, 70 yards, which he hasn't done all season. I grant he didn't have that many starts, but he doesn't have like, most of his games, he doesn't have like more than 10 rushing yards or whatever. It's just a killer.
Right. This ain't Josh Dobbs.
It's not some like huge like.
It's not like Malik Cunningham subbed into the game, it was embarrassing. As far as the Giants go, my Giants friend texted me and yelled at me on behalf of the Packers for ruining their tank, and I apologize for it. It was a lose-lose. Let's undo the results of the game. We both agree that it would be better if the Packers won this one. Like, can we do a change.org petition or something to flip this result?
Change.org.
2 consenting parties should be able to do what they want, and we both consent.
Fan, comment and let us know if you want to change
flipping the result of this game. But the stupid league is like,
win. Isn't there somebody you forgot to ask?
there is someone we forgot to ask. Crooked Goodell letting the results stand. Big government too. I'm sick of it.
All right? Well, then I'm going to ask 2 questions. Number one, what do you feel like the Packers' path forward is from here? Then is it changed for you at all? I mean, this is a bad loss, but it's not like a crazy.
No, it's within the realm of possibility, especially with Musgrave and Watson out. I think that they've got to continue to just put this one aside and look like they did the first couple weeks and really the future, or the first couple weeks before, not the first couple weeks of the season, the last couple weeks before this game. It's certainly, I mean, we've seen it. What I want them to do going forward is they got to get rid of Joe Brady. The results everywhere he's been have been too bad, even spanning back before he was on the Packers. And we've tweaked defensive coordinator a lot of times, but it just never seems to have.
It just doesn't matter what
worked out. So I guess we got to keep trying.
Yeah.
And then
for the Giant.
Go ahead.
If you had something else to say, because I was going to change the topic entirely.
I literally don't.
Okay.
Go.
I guess I question, okay, you brought up the Giants' tank is ruined. So what do they do going forward? Because this is a bad season. Like, this is a very, very bad season for them. Daniel Jones got hurt, but it was pretty clear that this season was going down like this regardless, right?
Yeah.
Now, technically, they are only a game out of the 7th seed, but, I mean, we can read the tea leaves here a little bit and say that's
and they'd have a
tiebreaker
over Green Bay if they were to get the same record.
Hey,
look, I think
with quarterback range for one
with every win, as much as it hurts draft position, I think the ideal case scenario is that you win your next game and everyone looks great and you can just keep rolling with your current roster. Like, even if things look horrible for the Patriots, if all of a sudden Mac Jones started like balling out these past couple weeks and you were like, oh wait, he figured something out, like that's probably the ideal scenario. It's just like the pieces on your team look like they're there.
But hypothetically, if you only look good for those last 4 games, is that enough? Like, we're talking about Justin Fields and how what he's been doing these past few weeks isn't enough to avoid him.
I
being
kind of
replaced.
agree. It's like the core problems of this team are still not fixed.
They're not fixed, but I guess it helps you look at like, okay, Wan'Dale Robinson, he might be someone to keep around. It would be worse if no one was good, or Deontay
No one's
Banks.
good, but you're winning games. Like,
I mean, I'm saying you need some core pieces to be there. Otherwise, you're going to get the quarterback in and it's going to be a disaster. So I think there's always some sort of silver lining in terms of, we won the game, because it instills a little bit of faith in at least Brian Daboll to create. I know I said how, the Packers defense was a mess, and that was mostly why the Giants were able to win this game. But Daboll manufactured a game plan where a third string quarterback can have like an 80-something% completion percentage and stuff like that. And the motion was really giving the Packers problems and the play action. So, that's good to see that he was able to come up with a one there if you're a Giants fan. And then, I think that on the defensive side of the ball, they've kind of built it out towards Wink's strengths. They went out and got Deontay Banks, who is a guy who can play press man and is athletic enough to run around. And, he's had some success this season and had some success in that Packers game. So when it comes to the Giants going forward, and if they've played themselves out of, first overall pick contention, you just say, well, let's just make the roster better. And any way we can do that,
and even if you are in first overall pick contention, you're probably saying, well, let's just make the roster better. I'd say most teams are thinking that this offseason.
Yeah, but that's all you can do. It's like I don't know what they do at the quarterback position, but I think that I would like maybe a different direction in terms of their offensive line coaching, considering how none of those guys have really developed the way that you thought. Who knows what can happen and how you can look competent quickly. I mean, the Colts were horrific last year. I guess they changed coaches, but with Gardner Minshew, it's all of a sudden looking better. So I don't think it's over. Who knows when the right time to strike for a quarterback will be. But I think if you're a Giants fan, you just have to take solace in the fact that, hey, some moves we've made in the past are starting to pay dividends like we wanted. And sadly, it's been a few too many for us to get Caleb. But the opportunity will arise to trade for someone, or who knows what can happen. It's a bit
Cousins
unfortunate.
Is a free agent this offseason. We'll see if he stays in Minnesota, but
I think
for
he's
now,
leaking would be my guess. But
and Daboll could be good with perhaps a second tier quarterback. Like we see if they go with Bo Nix or something like that. I'm sure that Daniels, Giants fans
there's a lot of tier 2 guys to go after.
Yeah. So who knows what'll happen, but I think that a win, there's always positive things to take away from it, even if it ruins the tank or whatever. Is like, would you rather every move Joe Shern made looks awful and you're 0-17 like the Panthers? I mean,
just every episode, man, you got something to say.
I'm just saying, that's what most fan bases want their team to look like, unless they're in the playoffs right now. They're like, why are we winning? Why did we lose this game? I want to lose this one for draft picks. It's like, okay,
they're already out of it too, man. I
don't want to look like the Panthers or Patriots.
Yeah, the dominant Panthers will not be giving up their first overall pick in the sense that they'll be the worst team. They will be giving it up in the sense that we don't want it.
They'll be giving it up in the sense that they are the worst team.
I'd rather. It just makes us grind harder. You feel me?
Yeah, man. During our Pizza pregame, 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. And get ready for some football and some fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game. But moving on to the other Monday night game, Dolphins versus Titans. Dolphins drop another, a game where they really, we thought going in this could be another 70-pointer with, the current state of the Titans. But the one bright spot of the Tennessee Titans shined in a big way. And we always talk about there's two ways that you can, really there's one way that you want to beat the Dolphins, but there's two ways to gain that. And the one way is you want to just kind of throw off the timing of their passing attack. And two ways you can do that: you can either get hands on the receivers and throw them off of their routes, or you can get pressure on Tua. They got 5 sacks.
Or Tyreek Hill can leave the game.
That too.
That also helps.
That also
Look, to his superpower is the fact that he gets the ball out so fast, right? Like late in the down, that's not what Tua is good at. That's not what he's praised for by anybody. It's he can hit the top of his drop and get that ball out. And his time to throw is ridiculously short. Mm-hmm. But Tyreek is the only guy who can run a breaking route in that amount of time, I feel like. You understand, like a dig in that
a deep
short
dig,
of a
like
time.
He can get through his route really quick.
He can get to the route really
fast.
Yeah. So when he's out, that separation break, that move to shake somebody can't really happen anymore while Tua is getting the ball out with that speed. So against the Titans, when Tyreek went out, it felt like a huge portion. Like it felt like the MVP of the league was gone from the team. Like it felt like their whole offense couldn't really function like the Dolphins offense. It felt like some bad team, really. And it was, I think, a pretty strong vote for Tyreek for that non-quarterback MVP award, because things totally sputtered and they were up against a defense with bad corners that had really struggled to stop the pass. And as soon as he left the game, it was pretty tough sledding, and it was the longest Tua had held the ball all year. I thought McDaniels tried to call plays to still get the ball out pretty fast in the second half, but they were all hitches and goes. It's like that's when you can hit the top of your drop and throw it. It's when they don't have to take the time to break when you don't have Tyreek Hill. And that just wasn't as effective as, hitting drift routes with him. So I thought Tua, he always struggles, I think, when you force him to hold on to the ball and move around. And he was doing more of it in this game than I've seen from him in a while. It was the longest he's held the ball. He was at 2.74 seconds in this game. And there have been games this year where he's been below 2 seconds, which is crazy. And that was the longest he's held the ball in a game this year by over a tenth of a second. And he didn't play very well in Tyreek's absence, I would say. And that was
there are only scores in the second half. They're only touchdowns in the second half were off of horrific Titans turnovers.
Mm-hmm. The other quarterback, though, Will Levis.
Stay hot legend.
I thought he played amazing in this game.
Yeah, I think there's some real hope there.
I agree.
He's very, very aggressive getting the ball down the field, and he just gives them so much more juice trying to create explosives than they had before. It was basically nothing before Levis came in. As low as it could possibly be. I don't know what the actual numbers say, but
I do know what the actual numbers say because I looked it up before the podcast. So Levis is number 1 in the league in percentage of his throws that go beyond 20 yards, according to PFF. Ryan Tannehill is number 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, maybe
but the success rate is very different.
Okay.
So Tannehill was going deep
down there.
Yeah. He was going deep, and it's still an offense where they want to get under center and they want to run play action, and it gives the wide receivers time to get down the field. And there have been shots to Burks and Hopkins all year, but with Tannehill, he didn't throw a touchdown on a single one of those deep shots, and I think he threw 5 picks. Whereas with Levis, it's 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, a passer rating in the 90s on those plays, whereas Tannehill was near the bottom of the league.
This is the benefit of having an arm that you can just rip it.
Yeah, he's got one of the biggest arms in the NFL. He really does. I mean, it's a power arm, no question about it. And I think we felt this way before the draft. I know we did, where it's like people definitely got too low on Levis. Like, I'm not saying he's going to work out and turn into a franchise quarterback, but there was the idea that he was just a total dud, not deserving of being anywhere in the conversation of like a team, like a quarterback that a team could really take a chance on. And he's at least proven that that's not the case. Granted, with an offense that's very, very bad around him, that offensive line is still one of, if not the worst in the entire NFL. The run game against the Dolphins was non-existent.
Derrick
Henry did like nothing on the ground.
Derrick Henry dropped that pitch. I mean, a lot of people.
I didn't think that was the most well-placed pitch from Levis, I will say.
Well, maybe not the most, but like
Henry kind of had to reach behind it.
He could have
caught it. Henry did catch like a wheel route up the sideline.
He caught that, but
it's like, was that Hopkins?
No,
you're right though. It was the left side of the line versus Sealer and Bradley Chubb. It was a little rough. It was a little rough for the rookie, and I can't remember the name of the left tackle, but he wasn't having a great time.
Is that
the two of them combined were not having a great time? No, it wasn't. He wasn't the left tackle. It was somebody I hadn't.
Jalen Duncan.
Yes, Duncan. Jalen Duncan was not, and Skoronski versus Sealer and Chubb was not going super well. But
I haven't looked too much at the Titans O line. Has Skoronski been generally good or bad this year?
I don't know about the whole year. I think it's probably been a bit rough for him. Overall, in this game, it was certainly Sealer getting the better of him, I think, over the course of the game. But that's not to say that he never had any good reps or didn't show anything. He had a couple nice ones where he wrestled Sealer to the ground. He had one where Sealer got hands on him early, which caused plenty of problems. And we've all documented Skoronski's lack of length. But on one rep, Sealer got hands on him, and then Skoronski batted him away, reset his hands, totally stonewalled him, and Levis made a throw. So he has had his rookie difficulties, but I think potential is still there. I like Aaron Brewer too, their center. He's tiny. He's like 6'1", 290. For an offensive lineman, that's really small. But as a run blocker, he plays super like under control, getting to the second level, like just always seems to connect, and he gets super low and pushes you on your waist all the time, which is difficult to deal with as a lineman. But as a whole, like the offensive line wasn't good, but Levis still stood in there. He only took, I think, one sack on a horrifically bad missed stunt by the offensive line. Like he had no chance. He doesn't give a shit about pressure. That's the other thing that helps him outside of his arm is like he can kind of hang in there that extra beat.
Some people thought that might hurt him because it's like that hurt Daniel Jones for a while because he like didn't feel anything and he would always just be too loose with the football.
Wow.
But
I would say his internal clock could speed up a hair, but it's a blessing and a curse depending on what happens. It's good sometimes and bad sometimes. I think that he really focuses on some routes down the field. Like if there's a safety rotation and it's one high, like he is going to be hitting that go route down the field. Or
granted, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like he's just super aggressive is all I'm saying. So
he's also not like the taking sack monster that Daniel Jones was when he was playing this year. I'm not saying that his ability to avoid pressure has been like amazing or anything, or he's gotten the ball out super effectively, but at least when there's pressure, he's stayed aggressive. And, an 8% sack percentage or whatever it's sitting at right now is really not that bad for a rookie behind a horrible offensive line. Whereas like Daniel Jones or a Howell, they're sitting more around like 15 or 20 or just ludicrous numbers, or like a Desmond Ridder type guy. And he's not that at all.
And the way he reacts to pressure is different than those guys. Like those guys will run around and Levis will run too, but he's someone that will like hang in there under pressure. And at Kentucky, he would get killed just because he'd be loose, like just kind of chilling there, ready to throw. And the pressure would come and he would just get absolutely taken out. And in the NFL, he's definitely avoided the like huge sack number fate, but he's still like someone that wants to hang into the pocket. He has a super quick release too, which helps as well, because when the pressure is bearing down, he can still, get throws off in an instant. So he's got a pretty good blend of skills. The turnovers haven't been bad. The sacks haven't been too bad. I think there's real potential there with him. And in this game, it was a lot of great throws down the field without a running game to beat a good defense that certainly missed Javon Holland. Like the safety play was a little rough in this one, but still, the offensive line wasn't always winning against that front, and he still had a pretty crazy game and made about 4 or 5 just eye-popping throws. He had a throw before to D-Hop right before the second half, like a hole shot under crazy pressure. It was just an absolute missile.
The throw to Westbrook-Akine that ended up getting called back. That was a laser.
That was a laser. The throw before halftime was good. He had a couple sail routes deep and outside. I think I thought it was a really, really strong performance, and
probably his best game since his debut.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely.
I'm looking right now. His pressure to sack rate sits right between Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. But Mac Jones is good.
What's the number?
It's pressure to sack rate is 18.3%.
It's a good number to be at, and it's something I quite honestly didn't expect based on his college film.
No, I did.
But Mac Jones is also in that.
It was a valid concern. I think was him taking on too much contact, which he still does down the field. Vrabel talked about how he's getting the shit kicked out of him, and he tried to show how sliding could help him, but instead he's going to start showing quarterbacks just getting like knocked out to scare Levis into sliding, because he does it never. He does not want to slide.
Hey, he didn't play baseball. I get it. Or I don't know if he played baseball, actually.
I don't know.
But do we want to get into a little NBA?
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
Who is our Under Armour NBA game changer of the week?
That would be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander today, who has played himself into the MVP conversation, who is a guy who, even up to this offseason, with him being first team All-NBA, you still could have been high on him and had room to gain, if you see what I'm saying. Like, he's like the opposite of a frustrating player, you know? That's the type of game that he has. I think because his rise has been pretty quick, or maybe because he's been a little bit under the radar, not under the radar, but just not on great teams or whatever. People have been a little bit slower to accept that he hasn't had the playoff success. So nobody wants to put anybody in the top 10 conversation who hasn't been great in the playoffs through no fault of his own. But you watch him play, like, we know what's going on. And if you watched the Thunder last year, you knew why they didn't make the playoffs. It's because they didn't have any serious center play. Now that that's not the case, second in the West. That's no mistake. That's not Utah Jazz last year. It's because the Thunder are really that good. They're that level. His game, I think, is very modern, and so not in the necessarily like his shot diet, because he doesn't take a lot of threes.
No.
But it's modern in the sense that it's a very paced, sort of reactive to what the defense is showing him type of situation, where he's not just screaming at the rim, although he's one of the best guards inside in the entire NBA. But it's very much, changing direction quickly, decelerating, really good at playing the angles, really good finishing around the rim. A guy who can hit and pass guys when he needs to, and on top of that, a fantastic defender. I don't know if he's actually going to come a fantastic defender. I don't know if he's going to actually come away with the MVP. I think it's going to be pretty tough for him to argue that he's more valuable than Jokic or Embiid at the end of the year. It's a high bar, but he's going to be a guy who he needs to be in the conversation. What we said about him plenty of times this year, and rightfully so. He is wildly good. I am fully bought in on the Thunder. I think a real conversation should be had about how far they can go in the West.
They can go all the way. I think they can. Like, to say they can't, I think is crazy. Will they? I don't know. But
it's tough because you don't know how teams translate to the playoffs. So that they're no real like big indicators where you're like, well, they're phony. They're phony. This is phony about them. But they're so young, and they're still. I mean, mainly one of the big things is that they're still playing a lot of Josh Giddey minutes, who is bad, who is not a winning basketball player right now.
It's not the biggest issue.
Not the only thing.
It's not the only thing, but if we're talking from a purely basketball standpoint.
You're right. He has been massively disappointing this season.
He's been massively disappointing this season. He's not a strong defender. He's not a strong shooter. And they want to get him a lot of work, and they want to like still work. They're almost ahead of their own timeline. But I wonder if after this year, things for the Thunder sort of accelerate quickly, because you can sit here and you can point out, well, this guy is this old, and this guy is this old, and this guy is this old. Perfect. But if you did that last time when the Thunder had a core like this, you would have been gravely mistaken when they had to pay everybody was the actual turning point. And I think there's a lot of reasons to believe why it's not going to go down like that for the Thunder again, largely because they have such a treasure trove of picks that their supporting cast around whatever stars they end up keeping after they have to pay everybody will not be as bad as it was in like 2016. That's not going to happen. Or Sam Presti like legitimately needs to get out of there if he doesn't build a serious team around them, because he could just overpay for whoever he'd like and build the perfect team. But I think I get this year. You didn't know how things were going to look with Chet. Giddey was still really young in the whole situation with him. But if after this year they're not mega aggressive and being like, we should be winning this thing right now, it's a mistake.
And I wonder if even
with just SGA is like.
He's number one in the league in plus minus right now. I mean, that's not a stat that's totally an individual thing, but when he's on the court, no individual player has been seen more offensive success or team success.
He's got a real shot at the MVP. He does, even with Jokic and Embiid. He's got a real shot at him, and he's
as good as you can be without being like a lights out 3-point shooter. I feel like you got to say is. No one is better at getting steals and blocking shots as a guard, and like the mid range is money, and the
finishing at the rim is money. He just counters everything so well. He's just such a smart, good, controlled player, and I don't think it helps him on like Hoop Central posts or whatever. But you'd love
he's
him
no
if he was
Derrick
on your
Rose
team,
with
man.
the highlight reel or anything like that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he has his highlights, obviously, but like,
well, yeah,
his game.
I know what you're saying, and I think that's part of the reason why people kind of dragged their feet on him a little bit. First of all, no one can pronounce his name. When no one knew who he was, they're like, I don't want to push this guy's agenda. I don't even know how to say Gilgeous. So that was the first problem. The second problem is that the team was terrible. And then the third problem is that he just didn't have like the Derrick Rose aura, I guess.
Well, it comes down a lot to like nobody wants to say that SGA is better than their player, so it's very easy to be like, well,
true.
he
I
hasn't done it in the
can't
playoffs
push
yet.
the Booker the SGA over Booker agenda, but yeah, that's true. Like that eliminates a lot of fan bases.
This sounds
like,
so much like
guards.
Jalen Hurts and the Eagles to me a little bit.
Well,
SGA as an NBA player is better than Jalen Hurts as an NFL player.
yes.
Really? Right now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, easily.
Shit.
I mean, SGA is in a weird situation.
Let me put it this way, Blaiden. He's a little bit like Myles Garrett.
Oh God.
He's a little bit.
He's maybe he's prime Josh Gordon.
Yeah, you think about Joel Bitonio and how he's a good guard.
Think about if
SGA
Nick Chubb
is also a good guard. Nick Chubb before the injury.
Oh
That's
my
what
God.
SGA is like. He's just.
I was trying to make a non-Browns reference, and
well, it's just. It's just ridiculous with him, and I think they've got all the right pieces there, and they've still got so many picks to work with. It's one of the most. How can you not come away with a title, right? With this team,
no one's future looks better. Like no one's window looks.
It just comes down to like how, and I think they will be aggressive. There's obviously
I think they could be aggressive as soon as the trade deadline. I mean, if Giddey's a guy with value,
absolutely, why not? And Giddey probably would be, if you can trade away Giddey to some team, I don't think anybody's going to trade for Giddey right now. And I don't think that's really what they're thinking, but just start looking for the pieces now, because one thing that teams do sometimes is they'll give themselves too short of a window to go find that extra piece. And there's only certain guys who are available. Like sometimes the right move isn't there. And the wider you can make that range of time when you're looking to add a big piece or just solid role players or things like that, the more options you'll have. And the more options you'll have, the better off you'll be. And no team can entertain more options than Oklahoma City. It doesn't even have to necessarily be another star, although it very well could be.
Yeah.
So
we had a debate on this show a while ago. Who had a better future, the Thunder or the Magic? Remember talking about that probably about a year or two ago.
What side was I on? Do you remember?
I don't remember what side any of us were on. I think we were more.
It's a pretty good
Thunder
debate.
pill.
It seems like it's a pretty.
That was a great debate.
The Thunder have all the picks, but like I'm telling you, I've been singing the praises of Orlando's rebuild for a few years now, and it's paying off. Yes, they're good, man. They're really nice.
They are extremely nice. That was the team that I brought. The Thunder and the Magic seem to be kind of the new rebuilds that are, and Minnesota, I would say, probably also has kind of blossomed into that conversation and are probably even a tier above as contenders because they already made the Gobert move. But Orlando also, over the past, since actually over the course of this whole regular season, I was looking at numbers before the podcast from the last month. I didn't even need to put that constraint on it for Orlando, just over the course of the whole season at this point. Their defense especially has been.
Well, that's how they built this thing out. And, there's always a risk when sometimes teams can get so in the mindset of like, we want to take this type of player that, it's like I was saying with the trade deadline, like sometimes those type of players, like those sort of lengthy, sort of wing, like very switchable type dudes. Sometimes they're just like, isn't a good one to take where you are in the draft all the time, but it's just worked out for Orlando. They've just been right. They've just kept hitting. They've got so many people who move the ball well, who switch well. It's almost, it's like, what if the Raptors were good? This is what the Raptors were going for. And they didn't quite build it out like Orlando and, picks or whatever and lottery. But, yeah, man, they're another team that I think starting this offseason, go be aggressive. Go make a move. Go do it, man. There's no time like now because I think they're totally here. And don't get too tied up into the age of all your players because you're going to have to pay people. And Suggs taking a step, huge, man. Huge, man.
Yeah, it didn't quite look like that might happen. It didn't always look like that was going to be the case with how inefficient he was the first 2 years of his career. But yeah, I mean, they forced a lot of turnovers last year and just kicked it up a notch. They were decent on defense last year and just kicked it up a notch, and then just figured out how to be a not bottom five offense anymore. And Paulo took a step. The bones were there, and then everything is just kind of hitting for them, which it should, because they've been horrible for a while. And eventually you would have to assume that you could field a competent basketball team. So
this is the timeline. It actually has not been that long since they traded Vucevic, and it should not take that long. As long as you can get a like serious lottery win, not necessarily number one overall pick, but give yourself like a real pick in a real draft, and you make the proper moves of trading away, your sort of veteran players, and you draft well, you can turn it around like this. Same thing with Oklahoma City. It doesn't need to be a 7-8 year process of being horrific in the NBA. It can be like 2 to 3 years. And even last year, Orlando was a fun team to watch. It's not like they were terrible or anything. And this year, I mean, they're like second in the East right now. I don't know if that's going to hold. I know it's like a dead heat at the top four right now. But yeah, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're a great team. So both those teams deserve a lot of love. Speaking of bad rebuilds that have gone poorly,
I was going to pose another future question.
That's a nasty transition, Matt.
I was going to pose another future transition that will rival the Magic versus Thunder debates of the past. Mm-hmm. This year's version is who has the better future, the Wizards or the Pistons?
The Pistons. The Pistons.
Better future.
Oh yeah. If you told me I could be the general manager of one team, I'd take the Pistons. The Pistons are awful, but like I still like their prospects, man. Like Ivy has gotten so much better around the rim. Cade's numbers, I think Jokic Joestar posted his numbers. He made a great point. It's like his efficiency, despite a deeply, deeply unserious rotation of players, is truly amazing. Asar Thompson, the spacing hurts you. The limitations on offense are hurting you right now, but he's obviously what you drafted him to be. And Duran is obviously a good player too, and he's still, he's only 18.
How are
he's
they
only
so
18.
Bad?
They're so bad because, number one, a good prospect does not necessarily mean a good player right now. Sometimes it takes a few years. And the Pistons have been very aggressive drafting guys who are projects because they're tanking. Now, that's perfectly fine. But that's going to make you bad in the immediate future. Even if you can see Asar Thompson's name and circle that and say, great, perfect, that's a good prospect. We're glad to have him starting. And you should be. It does not mean that it's going to the lack of spacing is going to hurt. That is going to hurt you badly. And then on top of that, I don't disagree with. But then on top of that, what I do disagree with, and what everybody seems to, this is not a hot take, is to then go out and grab more projects that are hurting your ability to be a real team. Wiseman and Bagley are just ridiculous moves. And you give up Sadiq Bey, who was a much more serious contributing player. You watch a team go trade for like the Lakers, like Rui Hachimura. That's how you should be spending 5 second-round draft picks, 4 second-round draft picks, not on like a project guy where, he was, great athlete for his size, but in reality, he's not a good defender and he's not a good shooter, which 99% of the time, if a guy is those two things, they're not a good player. So when you factor them into the rotation as well, it's like there just isn't a lot to work with here. It's just too many guys who are unserious,
Yeah.
And I just disagree strongly with Weaver making moves like that. And they're
it's hard not to when you see
could be the worst. There's risk they could be the worst team ever. It is legitimate. I mean, I think as it stands now, they have the worst win percentage of like any NBA team, worse than the Bobcats, who are 7-59. They're 2-21 right now.
7-59.
That's horrible.
Look, shortened season.
That's
shortened season
horrifying.
ruined the double-digit win dream. Don't hate.
The double-digit win dream.
But it's like, you built this thing out like that, and I don't know how you could expect it to go any other way. And I really think it hurts the development of the guys you have on the roster. I'm okay with taking the shots on the guys who have serious potential. Asar Thompson, that's serious potential you're taking a shot on. That's development worth wading through. You were always making your timeline farther in the future. But to compound that on guys who are second overall picks who their team is trying to trade him away, just not. It's the same thing as the NFL. If a guy gets taken that high and the team wants to move him, believe him.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff.
Do you
like
think
that.
they'll be bowl eligible by the end of this year?
I think they're going to get to 6 wins. I think odds are they probably will not be the worst team of all time. Probably.
I would agree with that. I think there's a real chance that their head coach gets fired.
Monty
at
Williams.
This point.
I don't really.
A one and done.
I disagree with Monty and the Ivy stuff. This is one of the rare times where why aren't you playing this young player? I think the people are right about, because usually 90% of the time, this is the secret of the NBA, the best kept secret. The answer to why aren't you playing this young player is because they are bad.
Same thing with NFL play calling. It's like, why are there so many
bad.
screens?
Why are we running so many screens? I have horrible news. There is an answer to that. It's not just because the guy is stupid. But this time it's like, dude.
It's not. He came into the training camp. He pitched the offense to the guys. They're like, screens.
Dude. No,
they loved it. They cheered.
Every long distance situation. We're calling the draw, boys.
Yeah. It's just, and I get Ivy is not a strong defender. I truly do, but I mean, what are we benching him for at this point too? To do what? Who cares if you defend? Just get him minutes. At this point,
he's their most efficient scorer outside of Kevin Knox and Stanley Umude, who do not play the amount of minutes that Jaden Ivey does.
Ivy's development path has been like very normal. It's been that's what's bizarre about it. It's not like he came in and it's like, oh my God, it's a disaster. I mean, it was bad his first year, but we knew that. Like, we knew it was going to be terrible efficiency, and it took a huge jump this year. It took a huge jump. And
look at Suggs.
Yeah,
I mean, we were just talking about him. Yeah.
But of course, this goes back to my first point, which is I think like outside of Cade, who granted was inefficient in his first year, but on sort of like a different plane than what we're talking about. That's all they've done. They just keep drafting those guys, and that's fine. That is a fine thing to do. But get the real role players around them, and you have to write it out. Like, what's going to happen if you do that. So I think back to the original point you were making, like Wizards versus Pistons, I'll take having those guys, and you just need to build around them, and you need to get some more serious guys, because I'm sure they're going to have a ton of money. I haven't looked at the numbers. I'm sure they have the money to go get those guys.
There's no way they don't have money.
There's no way.
Who would they?
And they're going to have the opportunity to get another guy at the top of the draft, it seems, most likely. But I like the young players. I'll take that over the Wizards, who I just don't think have a lot of guys I'm super excited about right now. Not nearly as many.
I agree. I think that's a good answer.
But maybe the Wizards and the Pistons could merge into one 35-win team.
You think they're winning 35 merging?
I think so. It's
possible.
Well, I guess it depends on who gets time. The Wizards have some role player-y competent guys, but let's like
throwing
Kyle
Kuzma and Gafford and Gallinari, and you're probably
Jones. Like there'd be some. Maybe they wouldn't win 35 games. I don't know. That's a great question for Twitter. If you combined the Spurs, who I think have 3 wins, the Wizards, who have 3 wins, and the Pistons, who have 2 wins, what would the lineups look like, and how many games would they win?
I'd have to imagine it would start to look a lot better if you combined
I think it would
Cade and Wemby and
realistically, if you had that pool of players, I still don't think it would be that great because you would take all the young guys, like that's what you would do, and then those young guys are not always the most winning basketball players right now, like I said.
yeah. That is an interesting. I'm split on how many they would win. I don't know what my answer would be. So it probably would be a good.
I'm going to go out on
Twitter
a whim
question.
and say 50.
There you go.
50 wins. Whew,
50
wins. They're going crazy.
They're going crazy.
Well, let's move on to the ever popular final portion of the Wednesday episodes, the Stay Hot Locks presented by Prize Picks. The way this works is we each draft winners from the upcoming week of football. Once they're off the board, no one else can take them, and they have to all hit. It's like a parlay. We're drafting a parlay of money line games from the NFL season. So last week we all lost. I picked the Dolphins, and I picked, what was the other obvious team that I picked that lost?
Theo
the Texans over the Jets.
Yeah, Theo with 6 points picked the Dolphins, the Texans, and the Vikings. One of those teams won, barely, in the worst game of the week.
Dolphins sold.
Right. Matt with 14. Matt currently has the lead, so he'll get his choice of pick today. He picked the Lions and the Saints. And then I, with 11 points, picked the 49ers, the Steelers, and the Packers. Steelers sold me immediately, so it didn't even matter. But we have another opportunity today to do the Stay Hot Locks. We've got 4 more weeks of the Stay Hot Locks. Theo, you've got 4 weeks to make a comeback.
Let's see how it goes. Matt,
what's
what
the
pick
gap
do you
between
want?
you and me, Blaiden?
You have 14. I have 11.
Okay.
Are you going to go first?
I'm going to take the first pick.
Okay.
I believe I will take the 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers are the best team in the league. And God bless the Cardinals.
That's usually the logic with the Stay Hot Locks here.
Yeah, usually we pick teams that are good against teams that are bad.
Blaiden, how about you go next?
Yeah, I planned. I planned on going next.
Yeah.
I will take. I actually already put in like a. I actually put in a parlay today of like games that I think are locks. It's like $10 to win 50.
Can we hear it?
It's 49ers, and then it's also the next team I'm gonna pick here, which is Kansas City over the Patriots. And then it's one other team, which I imagine, Theo, you will probably end up taking. Actually, I don't even know if I remember.
See.
I don't even know if I remember what the other team was.
Well, if you're picking,
but I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Okay. I will take the Eagles over the Seahawks, even though the Eagles are on kind of a streak of looking bad.
Yeah.
I think that their death gauntlet schedule is over, and I think that the fact that it's over is going to have the Eagles magically looking a lot better than they have the past couple weeks. And then I will bet against the Jets. The Dolphins injury report is pretty bad, but I guess I'll bet against the Jets again and their offense against the Dolphins defense and say the Dolphins get it done and to win, even though
All right.
it took a Hail Mary. It was a dogfight until the Hail Mary touchdown return.
Yeah.
The last time they played.
So you actually didn't take the other team in my parlay.
Lucky you.
It's the 49ers, the Chiefs, and the Rams who will be my next pick here against the Commanders.
That's pretty
Stafford's
valid.
been red hot. I'm going to bet on him to keep cooking against an awful defense.
Yeah, basically a playoff game for them. So
Yeah.
you would think that they will lock in and win.
Yeah.
It makes it real interesting. Makes it real interesting for me. Because there's
does.
one more team that would make a whole lot of sense to take. Falcons.
Are you talking about the
Falcons?
The Falcons over
Over the
Over
Panthers.
the Carolina Panthers. Now, this I usually just go off of spreads, and they're only -3. But like,
Really?
Really? I don't know.
They're in Carolina. Isn't the spread usually 3 points for like home field advantage?
Yeah.
They think would be an evenly matched.
Well,
Wait,
they're giving.
so
they're saying it's
right.
6.
I'm done.
Yeah.
They're saying it's 6. Yes.
Is there some crazy injury I don't know about? Brian Burns is questionable. That
It's over now.
I'm all right. I'm taking him. I'm going with the Falcons. The Panthers' run defense is.
What's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that can happen? And then I'll be out. I'm done.
I think I'm also going to be out. I'm not going to push it this week.
I've got some ground to make up. So
You do.
I'm going to say the Ravens beat the Jaguars.
Okay.
I think the Ravens are a far more complete team.
Right.
And I'm also going to take, this is the part where maybe I start to reach to try to make up ground. The Broncos over the Lions.
You hate the Lions, man.
Would it be wrong
they're
of
on
me to
straight target.
challenge?
Well, did you say that you were out?
I did. Yeah, I can't come back and
Yeah,
I
if
also
you're
don't
out,
think that
I
would
think
be a good challenge at all.
I don't think that I would have just locked.
we
them
might
if
have
I
to
thought
adjust
they
the
were a good
challenging rules because
lock. I don't think you should be able to.
No, if you say you're out, you're out.
You're out.
Yeah, okay.
Although,
Okay.
granted, I guess you don't have to say you're out until the pick swings back to you. But
is anyone else locking anything?
no, I'm done.
No,
I'm done as well. So
All right. So the lock tally for this upcoming week: Matt has 14 points, locking the 49ers and the Falcons. Theo has 6 points, trying to make up some ground, locking the Eagles, Dolphins, Ravens, and Broncos. And then I'm sitting with 11 points, locking the Chiefs and the Rams. Again, it's basically like a parlay, like Theo already described. All of them have to hit. I can't remember, what do we do in the event of a tie? We haven't had that happen this year.
it basically
counts as
voids
nothing.
it.
It's a
it
void.
counts
Voids
as,
it.
it doesn't kill your
Okay.
parlay, but you don't get points.
Okay, so if like the Rams were to tie and the Chiefs were to win, I'd get 1
It would
point
just be
for the
one.
week.
Yeah.
Yep.
One more
Okay.
thing I want to talk about. Actually, one more thing. How long are you suspending Draymond for? What he did to my beautiful
Forever,
boy
for life.
Nurkic?
I don't know, like 5 games. It's just like ridiculous at this point, man. Just chill out, dude. You know,
He's got some stuff going on at
He-
like.
dude, he hits
that he's
people
gotta
all the
deal
time,
with.
man. You can't do that. I don't know what to tell you.
It's
Like a game or what? Like I don't care at all. I have no strong opinion about the number, but like if the NBA is like it's not going to be 1 game, it's going to be 5 because you keep doing this. I get it, man. It's
I
ridiculous.
think it could be a really long one, right?
I thought I got suspended
There's
5 games
some
last time,
rumors
didn't
that they were thinking of like really hammering him. I don't know if those are true, but I saw Zach Lowe. He said like if Draymond returns a couple times in the podcast, people read into that, and he's like, that's not really what that means. Like I didn't mean it like that. So take that for what you will. But
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a season-long suspension, but
probably not.
it should be a pretty long one. I mean, he's acting extremely ridiculous this year. I don't know what is going through his brain. It's just a game, bro.
He's just a social media basketball player.
Well, no, he brings it to the court. He's nothing social media about it. He'll actually punch you. He's like the opposite. He's
just trying to go viral, man.
maybe
He's
that
trying
could
to
be.
go viral.
He's trying to get a banger. I wonder what the total economy of Draymond Green hitting someone is. Like, of all the impressions that get paid out on Twitter, like combined, like how much money does he make? NBA Twitter total when he goes and does something like that.
We got to get the stats on that.
You must be
Glass.
a sick MF to enjoy Draymond Green's 20-game suspension. There's $3 million right there.
Maybe I should subscribe to Twitter Premium or whatever.
I know.
Bag off of just like a
You must be
lifeless
sick
Draymond Green suspension banger.
Yeah, facts, man.
Anyway,
I'll let you guys know how much it reels in. No. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps things up. I know at the top I said we were going to talk about the Bill Belichick rumors. It's just
We lied.
We ran out of time.
Our fault.
Maybe next time, or maybe on a live stream, we'll hit on it. Or maybe we'll just wait until it actually becomes like real instead of it just being like, so and so said. But regardless, thank you all so much for tuning in. Been an absolute pleasure. And until next time, when we recap Week 15 of the NFL season, we will catch you on the flippity flop.